Number 5. Shall we continue right on from there unless anyone has something else they want to bring up right now?
I'm good with starting with 5.
Okay. Helping elderly population. That was a pretty simple one, straightforward, and I think that's been accomplished. Is that correct, Wayne?
Yes.
And so
I think we might want to look at it a little further than just helping them with their code enforcement problems. The elderly populations have many other problems, issues that they might need help with from the city.
I've received a couple calls, and 84-year-old gentleman couldn't figure out the county website to schedule a vaccination. There's a lot
I
of
had to
different,
call my granddaughter.
and have her do it for you.
It worked on her phone and my phone, but it wouldn't work on my computer.
Oh, and see, I have heard from people that your iPhone and your iPad doesn't work, only a computer works. So who knows? But that would be nice if somebody had all the answers and could answer them.
well, someone doesn't have all the answers. It doesn't work on any of mine. Computer, iPhone, iPad, telephone, nothing.
I did get an appointment next week, so I guess I was the lucky one, but my computer wouldn't go in, and I've got a granddaughter I can call. But
Yeah.
there are other issues that the older generation has that are not just under CPD.
Right. And even if we had just somebody really quickly, some of the hiccups where you have to wait for the computer to buffer long enough to get to the appointment. Don't touch it until it brings up a time because it's looking for times. I mean, I've had people tell me helpful hints to help these people calling, but if we could get some of those in a little thing, they could just click on the website.
So what is it you propose for this item now that we've talked about COVID immunizations?
Well, Aaron Krim is our website guy. Just see if, when we see problems like this, maybe give them to Wayne and have him assign them and see if he can help just a few people just by a website informational page. I mean, I don't think we have to go too far on little things like this. I know there's bigger issues.
Well, Wayne, what do you want to have happen when we have an issue and it's not one that we can direct to a specific department, like this elderly? There's not really anyone specifically assigned to help them. Where should we send them?
Just send them to us, just like you guys do now, through Angel or Tara or myself or some department head, and we'll filter it and do what we can do.
Okay.
I know we can go to county aging services, but not all of the aged population knows about county aging services because or what they offer. And I know I had my own brother living in West Valley didn't go to Harmon because he knew of the Eddie Main Center just north of him, and so he went there. And I said, well, what about Harmon Hall? They've got a good program going. So it's too hard to get there. I know where the other one is. So I think we just need to get information out to them too.
What information and how?
We could put on our website a link to County Aging Services. They have a website too. One of their directors lives in our city, and should be happy to help anyone that called in. So I think we just need to let them know what is available and where it's available, and we could do that through the website.
Well, and if the website's a problem, we could do it through the stormwater bill. Put it on the back of that announcement once or twice a year. Because if they don't know how to use the computer so well, paper will be the next best thing to just put on your refrigerator and have that resource there for you.
Good idea.
Well, is that a problem we should solve, or should we have the county solve that? Certainly they have familiarity with this aging group of people who may not have computers or may not be technologically savvy. How do they propose it? This can't be a new question for them.
I know they've put help. They've come to many of our events when we were holding events and just distributed their literature, which has how to get a hold of them, and has a whole book available on what is available for the aging population. So maybe just contact them and see if we can get some more cooperation with them to get information out to us.
I think we are the first line that they go to because they don't know who to go to at the county or the state. They just know their local leaders. And so I think if we can have a basic information form, I think that would be helpful.
Well, but if they call us, we already know to refer them, right? Wayne, I mean, obviously people have called before and we
Yes.
say, yes, you need to talk with someone at the county, and we probably can help them narrow it down. You know, if it's an aging services problem, if it's a problem, you know, with meals or with health or with utility bills, we have some expertise that we can direct them to a more specific department, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if they call us, I think we have that handled. So the question is, if they look on our website, what do they do there? What direction do they receive? I suspect we don't have a button for the elderly or over 70 only.
No, I mean, yeah, you'd have to navigate through, okay, what's under the services button, or do I know about the Harmon Senior Center, or, you know, questions like that. We could do some sort of temporary link to that. The problem is always, or the challenge is always, is I could put 30 different buttons on the front page for various services that people, you know, might not know about. So it's just priority.
Well, and the question then becomes, for those individuals, if you have all those buttons, did you help them or did you make it worse?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So any suggestions? Don, you're taking kind of a lead in this, so.
That's only because it hits home. When Wayne sends me out a note saying the county says you can get into COVID testing this way, I know it's hitting home.
Yeah.
But I think if we got a link on the front page of our website, it would be easier for them to find that. And I think I could talk to Kathy and get the website address for the aging services and get it on to Aaron and let him put it on the link. But it's not just the aging people, it's their caregivers too need to know about what services are available for them. You know, we just need to make it more. And the last population census or something on one of the backups on our study meeting showed that we're getting a larger and larger percentage of our population that is over 70. So,
but here the most I concerned about this group of people, and I see It's because the aging and also the illness that they have because they are, senior and they will not able to take care of their front yard or the house. And we're not gonna, complain anything about our code enforcement department because we go out, we see some properties, they are not clean and they're not supposed to be in our code or whatever it's called, and then we give them a ticket. And I feel sorry for that because these people, they're not strong enough to stand up and taking care of themselves. How can they gonna take care of the yards and all the things around the house? And that's the problem I'm really concerned about. And I ran into a lot of them, not a lot of them, a few of them in the past, and I could see that a very, very sad story for them.
And that's why the code enforcement people do have lists of those things that are available to them to help with the cleanup. But I'm just saying it needs to be more than just yard cleanup and things like that. It needs to be more the overall need of the person.
It is maybe right here is a good time for the My Hometown project. We can jump in, report it back to the city work with the My Hometown project, and we help these people out. And I think we have done that in the past, and then we continue to do so. But if we run into a problem like this, I think we need to work with My Hometown project or something. Is sad to see that.
So I think that if we were to put a link on our website, something that says looking for aging services, and it takes them over to the county, I would be okay with that. My one hesitancy on that is, like Wayne said, we could link to all kinds of places that we don't. My caution would be doing anything more than that, because if we say this is how you do this or this is how you do that, and we're trying to communicate information that some other agency, some other government is doing, we have to keep updated on that as well, or we're just giving bad information, which is worse than no information.
I'm not a big fan of, like Steve said, of having more buttons on that front page. Wayne, do we have something that says I can't find what I want? And
Yeah, I
click
mean, we have the window right there on the webpage that says, "What can we help you find?"
What
Frankly, I'm
happens-
not all that thrilled with how that works. It's not very far and it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, I mean, if you're looking for senior services in the city, you go to services, and then there's the Harmon Senior Rec Center right under Parks and Rec. But somebody has to have the wherewithal to think about, well, where would that normally fall? Surely it's going to be under services, and I'm going to read amongst the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost 25 service headings that are there. Again, to the whole point of how closely do you guide them to? But even there, doesn't really talk about county aging services. It talks about the senior center services. So we can certainly make a link or display it more prominently, figure out some way or where to do that.
There's a service, it's 211, isn't it? That anyone can call and they will help them get to the right place. So,
Yeah, I'm at a loss there, Mayor. I know what you're referring to, but I don't use it. So how well or it functions or
well, I just heard a presentation on it
yeah,
Wednesday, so
yeah.
they do try, and maybe all we need to do is have one say, when you go to that page and you have all those things, say, if you can't find what you want, call 211.
Yeah, I can look into
on
that.
your phone.
Kind of explore how helpful and what services they have. Sure.
Yeah, because they deal with seniors and people who are, recent immigrants, refugees. They deal with all of those, and they hook them up to the right place. So I'm glad that I went to Rotary Club Wednesday, so electronically, and heard that presentation. So is it 211 or 311?
I don't remember. We can find out.
It's 211.
Yeah, okay. Then that gives a link without overwhelming our system and gets them to the right place. And they're already prepared to deal with that.
And that way we're not duplicating services as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Which is
Okay,
always good. Yeah.
okay. So we change this one to say we add a link somewhere on there to refer people to 211 for additional help and to contact other agencies or something. I don't know. You'll figure out the wording. Okay,
Thank you.
then,
Can we ask for that one to kind of move quickly just because of the vaccinations and all the COVID questions?
Sure.
If they could do that relatively quick, that would be really helpful, I think.
Yep.
okay. Then next one, number 6, create and fund crew that would take care of issues in rights of way. Cleanup crews. You put 1 full FTE, 3 temporary. Temporaries are done. 2 FTEs will continue to work on tasks as assigned. Did that meet the objectives that the council had placed there? I assume they're still available, those FTEs?
Yes. Yep. Still working. And we'll increase it by the temporaries again as soon as the busy season warms up.
Okay,
And Wayne, is 1 crew enough or do we need 2? How's our cleanliness?
I think right now it's okay. I can always use more, but frankly, if in any of these discussions as we go along, and we may never get to this one, so I'll just put the plug in now. If I was to vote for, if you're going to add extra positions, the highest need right now is extra parks workers for all of those reasons we've talked about all year.
Yeah. That's always been a problem though, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
We just keep getting more parks dumped on us and
okay.
I mean, we
And-
create some of
Right.
our own. The state
Right.
develops landscaping along roads that they dump on us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So-
we're always behind the curve for sure.
Well, and that's with this cleanup crew. And then the next one, the graffiti crew. I would just hope we could have cleanup help graffiti and not have to add another crew there and then do Parks Department or something else.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily advocating for adding another graffiti officer. I will say that we certainly will have the cleanup crew help the graffiti effort as needed, but they don't have the same equipment. So that's part of the issue in terms of pulling them off of one and moving them to another. But on a temporary basis, especially in assisting Jake out there, yeah, we totally do that and can do it.
Okay, who would be the second on the list? Parks, maintenance first, parking? Parking tickets,
I'm not going to say anything about that, Mayor. That's you guys' baby.
Yeah, I think parks and the look of the city is more important there. I think we need to give parking 2 years under their belt and see if it cleans up itself because people are just tired of getting tickets.
Well, they
We
wouldn't.
certainly
get
saw
fired
some
if
of
they
that.
parked, right?
What's
Pardon?
that? Sorry, Mayor, I interrupted.
Well, we could solve that problem and just ban all on-street parking and be easy to have. We could take those other FTEs and have them do graffiti and park maintenance and, okay,
You'd still have to enforce it.
yeah. I guess you're right. Expand graffiti crew then. So did we cover that one? Okay, so those 2 are done.
Yep.
8, land acquisition, we talked about already. By the way, the Condi property, I've heard rumors that they're looking to put that into homes, maybe. They haven't.
Yeah,
decided.
that's been one of the possibilities in terms of their potential use for years. So I'm not surprised at the rumor. We probably have heard it even in our own effort.
Yeah.
Like I said, our negotiations with them are ongoing. They sound amenable. They're not eager to sell. Can't get them to sign.
Oh, by the way, totally off the subject, but I did get my tour done yesterday. So I have a much better understanding. And it makes a lot more sense to me now. So thank you we'll get to that next Tuesday. Okay, Bangor Interchange Construction. This one, I think we still want to have the updates. Does it need to be on here?
Well, it's ongoing, but we put it in the works, and that was the point of this, I think.
Yeah, but
And
we
you
do
s-
want to be regularly updated. I think that's the message to Wayne and his staff.
And that is
We
one of
haven't
the
lost-
items,
Oh, yes.
that is one of the items on the Western Growth Coalition resolution also. So however far it
Did you-
goes.
Don, did you help write that?
No,
Okay. I didn't think so, but I thought I'd just check.
but it is on there, and to me would be one of the reasons we might want to consider supporting that resolution. Just so we're all talking the same thing when we get up lobbying at the legislature.
When I visited with the chamber, they had someone bring that to them for consideration of supporting. And it was decided that we would go through and look more specifically at the area of the chamber, which is West Valley, Taylorsville, West Jordan, and Kearns, and perhaps do one that was more specific to that. And then come back and talk about it again.
I have no dog in the fight.
Okay.
Well, and sometime in the future, I need to sit down with someone in Public Works and truly understand these slip ramps, how they're different than an off ramp.
They're like between 70th and 78th on Bangor, where you can get on and get right back off.
Say that again.
Out there by, well, 70th south to 78th south, right there by the mall. They have one that comes on at 70th and goes down, and you can get either onto Bangor or you can get back off on 78th.
Okay, so to me, those look like just normal on and off ramps, and they're not. Okay.
Yeah, they're just put all together in one ramp.
Okay, so that's the design they're thinking for 3100 South, and you're muted, or I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, that's what it seems to me. And it, I've always thought it's kind of you've got one lane there that doesn't ever need to get onto the Bangor. And
Okay.
it's combining the two, the off and the on ramp in one spot.
So is that your understanding of it as well, Wayne?
Yeah, it's a great question. In some respect, I would say yes, but I would insert a heavy dose of caution and caveat there, just in the sense of, remember, everything we've seen so far is basically our projection of what either could work or some proposals we might submit to UDOT, or that UDOT could come up with. So we don't know exactly what they would look like. But
Right,
something
but
along that line, I think, is probably pretty close.
Okay, but I think before we really, we've hired the consultant to guide us away. And before
Right.
we say, yeah, that's the one we want, I think we need a full understanding of what it looks like.
For sure.
And then the other thing is to kind of get an idea of how many homes or businesses would be impacted by either one of them.
Right. So I don't know if we'll get there completely by the next step, but we'll definitely be a lot closer. And I think you'll have a better idea of what they look like in some more detail. If I
Okay.
remember right, we even have a projected next presentation date. I want to say it's somewhere around the end of this month. So it's not
Okay.
too far out in the future.
That's awesome, because the closer we can have them and keep a rhythm instead of 6
Right.
months and we can't remember what the last one. So thank you. That's very well planned.
Yeah.
And
in fact,
hopefully,
ahead.
Wayne, the consultant will be better prepared to answer questions at the next one.
Well, remember, I think they will. And remember also, when the consultant came last time, they basically were there to present what they had come up with. I don't think they had a lot of exposure to what you guys' questions were going to be yet. So hopefully
They hadn't had a lot of exposure to what the road looks like either.
Right. So hopefully they will be much further down that process. Oh, one other comment I was going to make to that. They, just for you guys' information, they are under a lot of, or I should say, they have a lot of motivation and incentive to get done. And the reason for that is in addition to doing our work, they, of course, because there's only a limited number of consultants that do this work, are going to want to bid on UDOT's EIS anyway. They're not going to want to be left out of that process, and they can't do the one while they're still working for us. So they're going to have a motivation to get through this as soon as they can.
Okay.
Okay, citizen contacts with city, number 10. This is the one where it looks like they've really taken it to heart. I got this last one with this utility billing insert, the calendar, but on the other side were the plays. That wasn't one, I think, that we talked about code enforcement, neighborhood night out, and parking rules for snow. Those are still on the agenda, right, Wayne?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think the point of how I illustrated the update there is that the topics change month to month. Now, I got to confess, I'm not making it part of my schedule to check and see what those look like and give editorial oversight before they go out each month. But that is the program. That's the understanding. They're supposed to focus on things that would be helpful at a good given time. You know, like code enforcement in the clean when or in the spring when cleanup time is upon us, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I assume that's the first one they've done, and I'm perfectly fine with what they did. Anyone else concerned there, or?
I was happy to see it. It looks good, and
Yeah,
it'd be good to have the change from time to time, because if it's the same thing all the time, it loses its effectiveness too.
yeah. Yeah, and we need to make sure it's, Wayne, that isn't like the plays you do once a year, unless there's something unusual, but yeah. I'm okay if you do it once a year, the same thing, but not within the year.
Yeah.
Please
Okay.
pass on to them that we're pleased with that.
I will, for sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And then the next part of that, the National Photography Day. Okay.
This one, we're
I think
really
that
not
might be
where
with
we
the
want to
river.
be, just as commentary, Mayor, just so you all know. This is kind of one of those ones that last year we were thinking about, and how do you put that together in the summer and in time for this. Got caught up in COVID. We haven't forgotten it. I have to admit, we sort of dropped the ball for a little bit, but we've picked it up and we're going to be emphasizing it again. I've talked to Nancy about that, and so we'll carry that on and do that in this year.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That one stays on. Placemaking. I had a thought just a minute ago when I saw this one coming up. And so I'm going to ask I know that you were looking at this. Is this one that's moved forward at all?
It has. We're having some trouble finding the actual artists that can actually do this from a metal foundry and a price standpoint, but we are moving it, yes.
What would happen? I hadn't thought of this. You know, we've been putting up these wind sculptures.
Hmm.
Is it possible to get smaller ones? I mean, like.
Yes, but that goes to our issue with the artist. The artist who does this one or this type where we bought these from, he doesn't do different designs than the ones that you see. We just pick from his menu, so to speak. But
if we could go out and,
yeah, we just have to find different artists to do it.
yeah, and then buy a bunch of them in bulk, what we'd pay for one, maybe we could get 20 little ones or something.
Yeah, and kind of the concept we're pursuing right now sort of follows that. We are looking for some artists that could, maybe we do like 4 different castings, and the idea that we've been pursuing, instead of making them like wind art, is make them in this, as you see on the report where it says interactive GIS scavenger hunt. So basically you'd have activity for the residents out there that it's kind of like a little treasure hunt, right? Like you might notice them just walking around the mall, or you might be actively seeking them in this recreational format. Well, we could do wind art too. There's no,
Well, you might look at that as a possibility too, because I know the council has already approved conceptually wind art.
Yeah.
So maybe check the price on something like that. So we'll leave that there. CEP program sustainment, we took care of that, didn't we?
Yeah, I took care of that.
And that's ongoing, so. Neighborhood groups. Operation My Hometown System Block Cabin Volunteer. So I would say that this one where you're utilizing My Hometown as the way to further this, that since you're already testing that and we'll follow through on that, does that meet the requirements the council had on that? I think I pushed a lot on this one last year, and I feel like that Operation My Hometown is a fantastic way to move this forward, see how it works. Hearing
that's
no,
our feel.
huh?
That's our feel, Mayor.
Okay, hearing no objections, that one will come off.
My hometown, I've seen some postings on their website of job opportunities and everything else for those that are looking for work. They're really going into really building up their neighborhood from the ground up.
That's great. Okay, the next one, campaign finance rules, we already dealt with that. Council meeting contact, we dealt with that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Parking perception. Ooh, I almost said parking perfection. That would be no parking at all. No.
So on this one, are you asking if we need a ordinance to enforce or whether we want people parking on the park strips? I didn't
No,
understand what this
I think
was.
this one, and this was one that I kind of talked about last year. I mentioned these questions. And it's just the reason why it became an issue is our previous chief of police said that that wasn't an infraction and they could park in the lane as long as there was a center lane for them to pull around. And they said, no, that's not quite right. And this was kind of an addition to that. So
Our recent parking ordinance changed that from state law, because I remembered that too. And actually, when we had the parking discussion with the chief a couple of months ago, I asked Wayne to bring me up to speed on that, and he sent me the ordinance that we had just changed that says you cannot park in a traffic lane, which is different than state law, but it's our law now.
okay, so that one I think is okay.
So Wayne, do we need to put anything else in or are we covered on this now?
I think we are covered. My memory, in addition to the commentary that's already been made, was we weren't so much being given an assignment as trying to clarify what the law actually was. So in addition to what Steve and the mayor said, I think we're good.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Photo radar. Ooh, let's see. Is this your number 4?
I do have
10.
further news on this, although I talked to the mayor about it a few weeks ago. We have literally gone and reached out to 7 different potential companies over the last while saying, can you do this? Would you do it? What would it cost? There was only 1 out of the 7 that even said potentially they would do it. And that was at a cost of $400,000 an intersection, which really was just them saying, no, we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So the discussion the mayor and I had a few weeks ago was if this is a priority in terms of data collection, I really can't think of a better way to approach this right now than just maybe getting an intern and sitting them out there at various high traffic intersections and just count it.
Well, now wait a minute. Let's change this then.
Okay.
The state has some sort of cameras that they collect information.
Uh-huh.
And so somehow they're able to tell if people are running stoplights or whatever with just a camera.
Are you sure? I mean, I'm not questioning. I'm just not aware. I mean, I know there are cameras. Absolutely. I look at them, but do they gather? Can they delineate between a car crossing a plane at a given moment of when the intersection is lit or not? I just don't know.
Well, they couldn't break it down in a lot of detail, like left-hand turns versus straight through. But yes, because they gave me some numbers.
Huh. Well, if you're aware of a way we can accomplish on an easier basis than me hiring people to go stand and look at cars, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd love to have that.
Let me say right up front, because I've been very interested in this. No, I do not want to have someone stand out there and count.
I'd rather just have my officers out there issuing tickets when they run red lights.
Yes, there we go.
Because I've had an officer at the green light. Someone ran a red light right in front of them and they still don't chase them down. So
Yeah, no,
it's got to be a priority to them.
Right. That's exactly right.
So I don't know who tells them that's a priority to.
I do,
tickets to
and I've
people.
gotten kick or pushback on that for literally years. I'm still working. I would say the chief is more amenable to the discussion, but still needs some urging and along. But I'm still working that.
Okay, so let's leave this here, but with change it to working with UDOT, because even if there's a way that they could put one of their cameras out here on some of our streets and we, for a while, or do something to not duplicate anything so we can get an idea of how big a problem it is. Now, I think it's a big problem because it's rare I go up to a stoplight, I don't see someone run it. And like on
I don't have any doubt that it's a big problem, looking at it from the standpoint of which I do, which is just measuring traffic accident changes.
Yeah.
So let's see if, and I want to build some data to be able to convince the legislature to let photo radar back, but I have to have, measurable data. Okay. Police annual report. Okay. Was that the one that we saw?
No,
Crime statistics.
2020 is not done yet, Mayor. They're working on it currently.
Okay, because I was going to say the report that we just got seemed like the same as before. Nothing had changed on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Reported to us. So that's still happening then.
So
Right.
let's leave that one on. Better response for low priority calls and drug houses. So how's this one going, Wayne?
It's a good question. So the best effort we really, or best course we could decide upon was to strengthen awareness of and coordination between the COP officers for maybe the main, or best described as the main avenue for this. And I would say in that realm, I don't think we're where we want to be. I think we're better than, we slowly incrementally get better over the years. I'll give you a quick example that just came up. Councilman Bueller had a complaint from a neighbor who suspected there was drug use going on in their property, in a neighboring property. We went and we've investigated that, set up the apparatus. Really honestly didn't find anything going on, and looked at that for a while. Probably not going to make the resident or convince the resident that it isn't happening, but we did examine it really pretty closely. By the same token, at the same time, had another resident make the same complaint, and happened right off the bat. The circumstances were right in that evidence was there, indicators were there, and a narcotics investigation was started almost immediately. So
Now, in fact, I still remember the house, and I won't say it here in a public meeting, but if you want to, I know where it's at. The complaint was that they had been doing drugs there for a long time. The city did investigate, did arrest them. They went to jail for a while, got out, came right back to the same house and started over again.
yeah. So when I kind of chuckle a little bit or give some caveat to my comments, it's usually, I won't blame it on that phenomenon, but that's one of the difficulties that we deal with, in that there's a lot of revolving door sort of activity going on in these things sometimes. Not always. Sometimes we get them very well cleaned up and they stay that way. Or sometimes they're cagey enough that it takes a very long time to catch them at anything. Or sometimes, like in this case, they just don't care. The justice system doesn't punish them in a lasting way, or convince them in a lasting way to not do that. And then they come back and start all over again.
Yeah. Well, certainly drug offenses, in our current criminal justice system has slipped way down, especially with the Justice Reform Initiative the legislature did. And they're just letting them out.
Or not sending them even to jail in the first place, not even taking them in.
Yeah. Well, this one, I just would like to leave there. Anything we can do to improve that, because there's almost nothing worse than having a drug house in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay. Did I get to I got to the bottom of the list. So now we've done those. I have two. Where do you want to go? Oh, let's see. What time is it? 1:43. How do you want to deal with the rest of things? I'm sure you must have more issues that you want to bring up.
Here, I have a concern about, we have a.
Okay, Tom, before you start, I just want to make sure, is this how you want to proceed? That we just go to each council member? You want to rotate around?
I will go whatever you have in your mind, your schedule.
I just want to see how you want to handle it, all of you. Do you want to just jump in, or shall I go to each council member one after the other? One after the other. Okay. Tom.
Okay. Here, I'm concerned about, we sometimes, we read a newspaper and we see multiple companies, they are here in this valley. And I don't see many of them that come to our city. So I'm concerned about, we do very good here in our city, but I'm concerned about in the future, we're going to be high with other cities. And I'm concerned about we're going to lose a lot of money and we're going to lose a lot of people, and we're going to pay heavy price for that, because I wonder about the Lehigh City 10 years ago, but 15 years ago, just a vacant land and all the weak. But right now you see multiple companies, tax companies, they are in there and they continue to go to that city and they must do something right. So I just wonder, is there any way we can study something about that? Other cities, so try to find out how we can catch up and not gonna get behind.
Yeah, so good question. And I guess the way I would start off response to that is really just trying to make you comfortable. We've assembled the best team there is in the state. We keep up with, build, rehab, and redevelop property. And we're in a very different position than undeveloped cities like Lehigh had been 10 years ago, for example. And therefore, the redevelopment aspect of that is very, very important. But I think you all, from a council standpoint, should have comfort that as long as we have the team in place that we have and we've designed our economic development effort the way we have, we're fine. We're better than any place else. And that's not to get complacent. That's just to state the fact of, you look at us from any measurable, comparison benchmark compared to what other cities are doing with what we have and what our resources are. We do a better job of developing. We do a better job of redeveloping, reinvestment, new investment, measuring any sort of incentive structure or deal making structure that we have against or versus any other city. So yeah, no, we're not going to get every deal in the state out there. Every deal in the state doesn't fit what our geography is, what our business profile is, what our transportation and location profile is, but that's okay. We have done very well. We continue to do very well. And the proof's in the numbers. I mean, you saw in our finance discussion earlier, the one area that we're not seeing a slowdown in, despite the fact that we're becoming more of a mature city and a stable city, is sales tax numbers and capital investment, like you saw in Nicole's presentation back a couple of weeks ago, where we had realized $2 million again in this year just in new building permits. So it's a great question to ask. It's always good to have that at the forefront of our mind, but thus far we're doing very well.
Tom?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't compare ourselves to Lehigh in new tech construction. They had something that we don't have. A lot of vacant land along I-15. Right. It's like saying, well, how come Park City has ski resorts and we don't? Well, we don't have any mountains. We don't have any vacant land on I-15. We're not going to have ski resorts. We're not going to have that kind of a immediate 10-year buildup because we just don't have the place for it.
That's my next point. So I just wonder about what they have and what we don't have and how we develop what we have here and try to get more people come to do business with us. I know we're doing well. I mean, it's just the future is I'm concerned about that, you know.
Yeah, but if you ever drive through there, I'm glad we don't have it. I mean, it's a mess. And they've got to have money pouring into their coffers, but they're way behind on developing their infrastructure. And I don't know how you can live down there when you can't get to your house without spending an hour on Redwood Road.
Another concern or another reason that a lot of them are going to the Lehigh area is 10 years ago, Lehigh built a big techno building and construction there for one company. And that company then left, went out of business, etc. And they're basically dividing that building they had into different companies. And so it's a case where it's just that availability of that one area. And, you know, we're working on the same thing with Deloy out by the golf course and things like that, out by Stonebridge. And I think it's just a matter of he hasn't made a whole lot of noise about the companies that are coming in there.
But here, one of the high points in our city is a 201. I believe you guys know that 201, and we have a lot of office warehouse. I think we're doing a wonderful job, and very much is a highlight in our city, and also Salt Lake. cities in the north up to 01, they seem like they growing very, very good, and we are basically the same thing with the Salt Lake City. And I just wonder, is that what we are strong, which one are we a strong point, and what's a weak point, and that's how we try to try to verify that information and try to work on that weak point and bring to the strong point in our city. That's what I'm thinking about. I mean, I'm concerned. Clyde 201 is beautiful. When we go over other cities, we talk, and then they talk, so, hey, West City have a office warehouse, and it's great in 201. It's something like that. I want to work. I mean, I want to ask you, is that the other way we can make a weak point is something we can make it strong, so we can compete with other cities.
So we do that and have been doing that for 20 years, and we do it in a very formal way. We've talked about that in this meeting and other meetings on a lot of different occasions. So at the risk of boring you all, and I'll try to keep it short, go right back to 2004 when we completely changed up our economic development function to do exactly what you're talking about, Tom. We went in and we identified the sectors of the city, where are the opportunities, where are the weaknesses, where can we have the most effect, where should we focus our efforts? And we update that document as a guiding document every 4 or 5 years or so. Nicole builds her team around that strategy and that document. And as conditions and environment change, we change with it. And frankly, all of those efforts have borne fruit and gotten stronger and stronger. Why have they gotten stronger and stronger? Because we've had success, and success builds on success. We have better relationships out there with not just the developers, but the brokers. We have the staff that has been developed to a high level of competency in those areas, and not just in terms of their bright smiley faces and they look good in a meeting out there. We measure by actual benchmark, what are they producing and how do they measure up against those strategies that we've defined. That very question that you're talking about lies at the very root of one of my most important aspects and concerns of city management since I got into the business. When I first got into the business in 1992 and watched how other cities were doing it, I was very dissatisfied. They had flashy people. They had people that could go out and luckily fall into a deal and then look good. Or they had people who could have friends at the state and work with some entity that once in a while would score them a win. But you never were really quite sure why that was or what their strategy was or how they were approaching it. And sometimes it was sheer luck. Sometimes it was a failure that you just never noticed because those people went away. Sometimes they were very successful and they went on and built great careers in that. But those cities and entities and people specific to those efforts are very few and far between. And I say that all just in background to the statement that I'll give you again. There's no better team in this state at the municipal level in doing economic development. There just isn't.
I understand. I know that. I think, for example, I would jump in right there, Wayne. For example, like West Jordan, they lack of the water, so they cannot compete with other cities, so they out the game. I mean, that's a real concern because I don't want to, we are behind, and then we have a big burden. We can shift that burden to the citizen in our city, and that's how we're going to do that from, like you said, maybe 20 years from now, what the city is going to look like, and that we want to see the big picture. I don't want we behind the game. You know, like West Jordan, they cannot get into the game right now because they lack of water. They cannot get the manufacturer in. They cannot get big company in. So I'm concerned. I know, just like you guys, I'm concerned about it.
It's a good concern, but the point, I mean, let's just use West Jordan as an example. They're not out of this game because they don't have water. They're out of this game because they haven't had an effective strategy the whole time I've ever worked in Salt Lake Valley, ever. It's never consistent. They never have the right people. They never keep the people when they get them. And they shift from one administration to another without ever focusing and consistently pursuing their strategy. That's why they're not in the game at all. And that doesn't mean West Valley can't lose that. We could lose that, but we don't. And as long as we keep our eye on the ball, a healthy level of concern in terms of what are we doing and how are we adjusting our strategy is good. Those are good questions to ask. But you shouldn't be worried that we're losing our edge. What you should be worried about is just that one sector of city operations, community development, is not going to take care of all your problems. And I know that's what you're worried about, Tom, from a property tax standpoint, from another revenue-based standpoint. No matter how good we do from an economic development standpoint, those revenue increases, those growth successes are only going to take care of about, I don't know, a quarter to a third of the revenue question that you're talking about.
Oh, a lot of people jump in.
Well, and I think we just need to keep our eye on the changes. I mean, brick and mortar on certain things are going away, on other things are stepping up. And I think our economic development, has done well to stay with what's going on and helping backfill some of those locations, as well as bringing in new facilities, new companies. So,
Right.
Yeah, as long as we keep our eye on that, I think we'll be fine. I think we've done a good job so far.
Yeah, and you emphasize a point there, Karen, which I know is a concern of Tom's as well. All of ours is. There is no harder economic development than redevelopment.
Yeah.
And increasingly, that's what we're going to have over time, because we don't have a lot of undeveloped land. We don't have green fields to fill in and grow like we did 20 plus years ago. But we do have the team to do it. We have the success to build on. And as long as we're smart, we'll be fine.
I think I would mention here that the concept of hiring someone to retain the existing businesses we have was one excellent
Yeah.
move.
Very
That
well
is-
spent money.
Yeah, very, very worthwhile. Now, Tom touched on a couple of things, but I will come back to that a little bit, not the economic development part, but the concept of what we want to be as a city. I think will bear some discussion. That's my one that I want to talk about later. So we had Tom. Let's see. Karen, do you want to be next? Do you have anything?
I do. Where are we at on the street signs? The street signs that have faded and look horrific. I haven't seen any of them changed out. Did we buy them from someone? Did we make them ourselves? What was the warranty? Can we hold those people's feet to the fire to replace them? And what's our plan of getting that fixed?
So exact same discussions we had as last year, just from a remembrance standpoint. We do have a plan in place. It would cost about $300,000 to implement it. Some of those signs are getting replaced, although it's hard to notice a difference because I think they are fading quicker than they're getting replaced. I think you're right, Karen. No, there's no warranty that can be pursued. So we really have two choices. We either kind of continue to pursue replacement at the pace that we have right now, which includes one guy and a bucket truck. Sometimes I think he gets some temporary help, but it's mostly one full-time employee. Or by the plan that we proposed in a program modification, we could make a big push one time. We'd spend around that $300,000 and then hopefully be able to incrementally increase just to keep up.
So our signs in the past seem to have lasted 30 years, and these can't even make it 2 years. Have we changed suppliers? Do we know what the problem was? I mean, that's my biggest thing is, have we figured out what went wrong and how we're going to solve it? I mean, are we going, I don't know.
We're continually look at the vendors and suppliers. I can't tell you if we're using a different one or not. I'd have to go back and get that information, but technology changes. We can keep striving to find better applications of that, but yeah, no, I mean, I can't tell you why or what the specific industry standard or difference in construction was 30 years ago in a sign versus 2 years ago. I don't have that level of depth. I'd have to go back and do further examination, but really it just boils down to whether you're expending the funds to keep up with it or not. Yes, you have a good point. maybe we'd spend less if the signs were a better construction or quality, and we can certainly look into that as well. But the main question right now is, do we want to put the resources to that?
Well, and my thing is I would rather not replace any of our old signs that are holding up and lasting the 30 with these new ones that only last 2, because to me, that's putting us in a financial swirl of not going up, but backwards. To have to replace them every 3 years because they're not high enough quality instead of every 30 years because they're good signs. So I'd rather not take down any more good signs to put up lower quality signs.
I don't think they're, I mean, I've heard you say that a couple of times in different meetings. I've gone out and looked at some of the remaining stock of older signs. I don't think there are any signs that are that old that don't need to be replaced.
You'll have to take me for a ride because the ones that we have up are horrific.
I'm not talking about the new, I'm talking about the old signs. In other words,
Yeah.
all the signs.
Another tour coming up.
Another tour? Yeah.
Yeah.
So street signs. My other is police officer pay. We took away the opportunity to have overtime from an outside source. Are we willing to make up that difference in higher pay for our officers? How much do we value them?
You had a question, and who were you expecting to answer?
Wayne, and then if anybody else has a concern over decreasing, I mean, the ones that we're doing overtime, we're making anywhere from 10 to 30,000 a year. I know when staff has said they like the 4-day, the 410s. They've always said that other department employees could go out and work that Friday to make extra money. So we're not just trying to figure out how to even the playing field, make sure everybody has the same opportunities. And if we're not going to allow them to do outside work, then if we're going to increase their pay to make up for that.
Well, but we do allow them to do outside work. We just don't allow them to be policemen in our cars and our uniforms outside of our oversight. I mean, even then, the companies can still hire, like Walmart still hires, whoever still hires, they just have to do it with the oversight, which I think is appropriate when they're driving our cars, wearing our uniforms, arresting people in our name. But they can go out and be realtors or artisans or ski patrol or whatever they want to do, just like the other employees. If Angel goes and works a part-time job because she's working 410s, her job isn't being an administrative assistant in a city. It's something different. And the police officers have the same opportunity to do that as well.
Going back to my part of the conversation, I do not have a material concern that we're going to lose large number of police officers due to this. So no, I'm not worried about giving them additional pay or changing the whole scale in response to that phenomenon. However, I certainly will be proposing to the council in the regular budget format the numbers that we come up with from both a step increase and market increase proposal, just like I do every year. And you will be free to consider that as a council however you'd like. From a staff standpoint, I don't think that we're going to lose people at a large scale. Will we lose a couple of people that sit, or maybe even a handful of people that sit in a particular position along that line? Maybe. I'm not even sure of that, but I don't think we're going to see any widespread loss of employees because of that.
Okay. And then my other thing is how we're doing on the vaccination.
Oh, good.
What are, how our employees are going to be covered if you included the council in that report, or what we're doing there?
Yeah, great. That's a great question. So vaccination plans have gone very well, at least in terms of how many doses they would allow us and the groups that they would allow us to cover, which to this point really basically is public safety and EOC staff, right? So anybody who would fall into that.
What is EOC?
Anybody who would be responding on scene to an emergency situation. Think of the earthquake.
Oh,
last year.
okay.
Now there are some exceptions to that we've been fighting for and been overruled because of county and state perspectives on the same issue. Snowplow drivers, for example, I would have put them ahead of some of the people that have already gotten shots if I had been the one making that decision. But because those public works employees are not included in those groups that have been approved, we haven't been able to get them yet. From here going out, it's going to be really interesting to see, because yes, in response to the earlier part of that question, every employee will get the opportunity at some point, including the council, to get these shots. And we're going to push that as hard and as fast and as just whatever way we can make that happen and have any influence with the county. One thing I'm starting to wonder, though, is by the time they get through those groups and the other designated groups, like whether that's medical workers or people over 70, or is a physical therapist, a medical worker, that sort of thing, and they get through all of that, we may be in the general public administration of vaccination at that point. A good example of that is the discussion that Don alluded to. We became aware of the over 70 mechanism here last week, and one of the first things we thought about was, okay, what employees do we have that we can get in under that wire as opposed to the employee group wire? So we contacted a couple of people on the council, I won't say who they are, and said, hey, you might be able to go and get your vaccination this way. And we'll try to do that same thing with all of the employees in whatever definition of whatever group is up there next. So this is something that probably from an urgency standpoint, I'm more concerned about almost than anything else. So we really are putting a lot of effort, in fact, on pretty much a daily basis, in how many doses are out there, who have we missed, is there anybody else we can shove into that pipeline and take advantage of getting those shots.
So have the people at the front window, like finance and administrative, have they had are they on the schedule, or are they just going to be general population whenever?
Some of them are general population. Not general population, but main body of government workers, right? Which at some point, all of those will be deemed in that essential service category, and they'll get their turn to that. It's almost a position by position definition, not even just how we term it, but how the county terms it. Let me give you another example along that line. I wouldn't necessarily have called our animal control officers public safety officers, but because in the county, animal control is under organizationally that function, they were included in that group. So of course I sent all my animal control officers over there to get their shots, just because that would be the quickest way I could get it to them.
So our police, our fire, and our animal control have had them?
Yep.
And that's about it in the city?
There's some more people miscellaneously across that, but not a whole lot more yet.
Okay.
I'm interested to see. I'm hoping Public Works will be the next big group we get in, and parks, our parks and rec staff, which,
that's
right off the top of your head, you wouldn't necessarily think they would be that high of a priority, but they just have so much exposure to so many people.
Well, that's it. I mean, the finance, not that I don't like finance, but they're back behind doors. They don't really work one-on-one with the customer, but
Right.
The fitness center is every day hundreds of customers. And so that's what I didn't know what we had to push for or lobby for the employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wayne, as an employer, do we require people to get vaccinated, or is that just?
No, we have thought about that. We've kind of been debating that for 3 or 4 months. And finally, I decided from a policy standpoint to not make it mandatory, but to do everything I can do to encourage as many people to get it. And I do have a concern there, which is if we go on through the months and let's say only 50% of the general population decides to get vaccinated for whatever reason, then we haven't achieved what we need to do to get back to normalcy. We're all still going to have to wear masks, and we're all going to have to stay socially distanced. So I don't know if that standard is going to be sustainable across the long run here if people aren't or don't come to the conclusion that it's safe and therefore they want it, and they're not seeing people drop dead or turn into zombies out there in the street, you know, and change their mind and go get it. I hope that's what is going to happen, and therefore we'll be able to hit that, you know, whatever it is, 70%, 80% mark.
So that was my next question. Are we tracking the take
Yes.
rate? We offered it to 600 people. Did 300 get it, or did 500 get it, or?
Yeah. In fire, so I'll just talk to the two biggest groups, which I really actually do know the stats, or at least close to it. In fire, almost everybody got it. In police, it was only slightly more than half of them, although I think a few more of them changed their minds as we went along, and I'm hoping that we will continue to change minds and get them vaccinated.
Well, and
So I think the jury's still kind of out. Sorry, Karen, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, if you've had COVID in the last 90 days, they will not give you a vaccination either. You have to
Right.
wait until after that 90. So if some of those people that didn't get it had it, you know, then their hands were kind of tied. As long as, if that was the situation, we can get it for them as soon as their 90 days are up.
Right, which points to another detail we're going to have to deal with, which is there's going to be a lot of cleanup after you get through the initial rounds too, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're doing it in the order of who's exposed to the public the most.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. I have to admit, I'll take a defined position and shove it in that stream, no matter what their definition is, if the county will give me the dose. But I'm trying to get it done by those with the highest exposure first.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, let me look. That might be it.
Okay. Now I think I cut Tom off with just one.
Oh,
And
okay.
rather than, because if someone has a lot, I'd rather give everyone a chance before everyone falls asleep at about 4. So we'll do them one at a time, okay? And I'll
Okay.
just keep rotating.
Well, and I am finished. Everything, all my others had been taken care of earlier. So,
Okay. Only because they appear this way on the screen. The one next to you now on my screen is Lars.
Thanks, Mayor. I have one item that I think would be appropriate to talk about when you're talking about the future of our city, our goals, or for the long term. So I'll just wait until we have that discussion.
And by the way, that's pretty flexible. So it'll probably open up a lot of comments. Then Steve?
I don't have anything new for today, Mayor.
Don?
I'd have just a couple of questions for Wayne. First one is, how do we determine what our approved staffing is for our police department?
We don't have a formula that says this is the ideal number. So really what we do is kind of make this assumed growth assumption based on opportunity, Don. And the best opportunity that we have that has moved us towards that growth over the last few years has been COPS grants. So every time one of those comes along, we apply for it, and we apply for the maximum number. And what that allows us to do is kind of get ourselves budgetarily used to the idea. You know what I mean? We come to the council and we say, hey, we'll have this group of officers 3/4 paid for, half paid for, and 1/4 paid for until we have to absorb the full cost of them. And doing that, we've been able to ease into, it's not minuscule growth, it's significant growth, but it's not huge leaps either. As you know, paying for even just 10 new police officers is really around $1 million ticket up front when you buy them. And so that's how we have pursued it. Now, I also have to say along that line, I don't necessarily buy into established standards where ICMA or the national FOP says, you should have this many officers per 1,000 population. We have far more officers per 1,000 than say Provo does, and they have lower crime. We have far fewer than say Salt Lake has, and they have higher crime. So, there's no one size fits all kind of answer to that question. I think in West Valley's experience across time, traditionally, that answer has been mostly answered by just plain how much budgetary support could we push to that. Clearly, it's the largest portion of the general fund budget, as you all know, from a cost standpoint and numbers standpoint. Not that that's really a benchmark or comparison either, but it just gives you the idea of where it does stand in terms of the overall city.
Reason for my question, this last week, I was tested negative this week, but the week before I was exposed to somebody, so I've been staying at home. And the first day I stayed at home was Wednesday the 6th. And so I've been kind of following the news since then. And one of the statements they made was the chief of Washington, D.C., the city police, said they have 3,000 officers in Washington, D.C. on their force. And I'm thinking, man, that's a tenth of our size of city. And they've got that many more officers than we do.
Yeah.
How do our officers feel about that staffing ratio?
Right. So yeah, again, I hadn't heard that example. Washington, D.C. traditionally has a very high crime rate. So again, necessarily the number of officers could either be a reaction to, but not necessarily a preventer of crime, right? But yeah, it's just because we don't adhere to that standard doesn't necessarily mean we're bad, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're good either. I would certainly support the argument that more officers in West Valley would be better. The mayor and I talk about this all the time. I'm not quite so sure that I completely am on board with the mayor's philosophy where I think he would like to see us from a police staffing level. But the point of bringing that conversation into it is just to say there's a lot of subjectivity to that discussion. Now, like you just said, DC may be bigger or smaller than you think. I just actually pulled up the population, 705,000 in DC proper,
Okay.
which is what's that, 5 times bigger than what we are. But even at that, we'd be around 1,000 officers versus their 3,000. So that's a significant difference for sure.
Well, and
Okay.
just their influx of how many people come into the city a day as well. This might be their
Right.
population at
Right.
700,000, but
That's
they
good
have out of Virginia and all around, they might have an influx of employees that come in and have a little bit different change to the population. So,
True. Yeah, that's one of the reasons or the rationale by which Salt Lake talks about staffing their police department. Definitely true.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
You bet.
I
That's
didn't
like-
make any comments. I'll come back to that in mine.
I think that's the only question I had for today, Mayor.
Okay. Well, it's after 2:00, but I still don't see Jake. Tom, do you have any more items? I kind of cut you off and want to give you a chance to address any other issues.
Just small item is not a big one, it's a small one. I'm concerned, my concerns that's about, like I mentioned before in a meeting before, I believe, about my custom motorbike and this tiny, small, really low, and they ran so fast. They run so fast. It's only teenager they do that. They don't have supervision like a father or mother to ride with them or something. And they have no license and they ran too fast. I'm concerned, somebody can get hurt. The first thing, the second thing, the same thing is the ATV. ATV only like 12 years old, 13 or 10, and they race together, and it's multiple places, not only Chesterfield, but multiple places in our city. And people, they share that concern with me. So anyway, we can take care of that. ATV, we can have a father or someone is above 18 years old or maybe 20, whatever. They deal with them and that'd be okay. But if they by themselves and it's very young age and they raise I think that's a big problem in our neighborhood, in our city. And again, about the band. They kept playing music so loud in the summertime, even in the fall. They have a good weather and they just playing it so loud is that we have to find ways to tackle that, and I appreciate that very much. Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe that there's only one good level for music that people's playing outside, and that's 0.
What
Use
about
your-
you, Donna?
I say my favorite station is KOFF. Silence is golden. No music or talk at all.
No, but maybe they don't know the rule and the regulation in our city, so maybe just have them out. But
Well, these are
go ahead.
really enforcement questions, right, Tom? I mean, they call the police. Did the police come? Did the police come in time to, if they tell them to turn it down or they catch the kids racing on the street, do they stop them? Do they leave? When the police leave, do they do it again? I mean, these are certainly problems.
Yeah.
I don't know other than putting an emphasis on enforcement. And then you say, well, we need to communicate to them.
Nah.
I just found out that people skateboard naked in West Valley City, and we didn't have a sign up that says you have to have clothes on to skateboard. And so I think more people know what they are supposed to or not supposed to do than we give them credit for. It's just a matter really of enforcement and people being good people. Wayne, I don't know if you've had any, because Tom's brought this up before, any discussion with the chief or any feedback on enforcement or what we can do to get these kids off the street or get the parties quieted down, or
I think the party. I'm sorry.
In my neighborhood, but
Yeah. I think the parties have quieted down. At least I hope they have for now. Maybe that's just partly winter, but we did actually, in conjunction with the chief, through patrol and also the community-oriented police group, the chief kind of ordered a no tolerance, meaning if you got busted out there for loud complaints, you were going to get ticketed. So I know enforcement happened on that, and I know the COP guys were speaking with these particular individuals at the addresses Tom's mentioned. So I know they know. And we'll continue to keep an eye on that and do what we can do out there as well.
Okay. Jake did join us just recently. Jake, we've been talking about issues from each council member. And so there's you and me left. So why don't, if you have anything, feel free to jump in.
On my list that I had, we had previously in the first half of the meeting had covered, let's see, graffiti, parking. I did want to just discuss, and maybe this has been covered. I apologize for missing part of the meeting today. But in terms of projection or any overview for this last year on our police and fire workforce stability. So I haven't been observant this year, but I know previously there was a lot of buzz and there were some great resolutions that also came forth in terms of salary and step increases and folks moving to different departments, etc. So I kind of just wanted to get and maybe that's not even for this meeting. That could even just be a communication, unless that is something that's more of a strategic discussion projecting into the next year. But that workforce stability, salary step increase, etc. That was one that I had on my list. And then another was just an assessment of how the West Valley mobile app has been, maybe some stats on usage, whether that's been downloaded across the city or well utilized, maybe some of the most frequent service requests. Just in terms of strategic discussion, I'm looking at optimizing the use of that app moving forward. But again, yeah, maybe that's a communication item as well, rather than something that necessitates a full discussion now.
Okay.
I can answer real quickly on the workforce question, Mayor, if you'd like me to.
Well, go ahead. And then would you just update based upon your notes, parking and graffiti for him?
Yeah, so you bet. Parking and graffiti. Parking's functioning. We've got 3 officers that are focused on that full time. Honestly, we're not actually seeing revenue projections come in where we wanted them to yet there, but that could just be a matter of lag and people not paying the tickets they're getting. I don't think it's level of effort. I know they are out there writing tickets on a pretty heavy basis. We did have a little bit of discussion earlier about whether we thought we should expand that effort yet or not. And I think the general consensus was, let's watch what we're doing with parking for a while and see if that works for us. Graffiti, we did bring forward a program modification, and so that is a matter of record we can consider during the budget if desired. But the conversation, as I remember it a little while ago, was maybe we're not talking about adding the graffiti full-time person right now, but using the cleanup crew to assist him where necessary and possible. And then on the workforce stats, we actually are in probably the best shape this year, fire and police, than we have been maybe in 10 years. In terms of, we've not only gotten the slots filled from a hiring standpoint, but they also are trained up and out there on the street. So we have full assigned shifts. So of course our challenge now going forward is doing everything we can do to keep us in that position, but we have attained that level. And the mobile app was the other question. I really don't have any update on that, but I can go get stats and information on that one in whichever method the council would prefer, whether that's on strategic plan or communications.
I think that would be helpful as a communications, just so we have it a little quicker.
Okay.
Okay. Then I guess it's down to me. Oops, I got to find out where
We've been going 2.5 hours, Mary. You want to take a break first, and then we'll tackle yours with
We've been
fresh
going-
eyes?
An hour and a half.
Or an hour and a half. Sorry. I counted lunch because I was
It
going.
may seem like it, but it's only been
It's
an hour.
3 years.
You
Well,
want a
nobody
10-minute
was afraid.
break? And then we'll do the Veterans Hall.
Okay,
Veterans
let's do
Hall.
it. 10-minute break.
Okay, that means what, about 22?
Yes.
First of all is one, two, three, four. Waiting for Tom and Steve.
I'm here, Mayor.
Tom's here.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve? While we're waiting for him,
I'm here.
okay. Okay. I mentioned that the Veterans Memorial and Park Conception, this is the latest iteration. As you're aware, I had mentioned to you that at one point we had solid commitments for over $3 million towards the project. But with the COVID-19 pandemic, both the county and those matching those donations said, please wait. We don't want to release those funds at this time. We'll help out later. And it wasn't sure if it'd be a year or 2 years, but that's what happened. And so anyway, here's the latest rendition for the proposal. Wayne, and by the way, Wayne, I did find this, so I was going to have Wayne show this, but we talked about it. He got this artistic or architectural rendering. And as you see right here, as you look at the Cultural Center Drive, you can see where that's at. Here's the pond. And so this is just to kind of show the whole park finished, which it won't be. And here up in the upper left-hand corner is where the memorial will be. This just brings, whoops, a little closer view of that. You can see here that blown up. This is parking on this side. This is the more memorial around here, and then a little water feature. So this is their rendition looking to the west. In other words, from right here. So when I orient, this is north, of course. This picture is going to show from looking from this over to the east, excuse me. Okay. So this is looking east from the west. And you'll see there on the left, the wall. And then down at the far end is a glass monument. We'll show you that in a minute. What they proposed was having some places to sit, some benches, some trees in the middle, and over in here's the water feature. This wall running around has the names of the approximately just a little shy of 3,000 names of those who gave their lives in combat. This gets a little closer what they proposed here of putting up this see-through wall with a quote on it. That was their original idea. And so let's see, stop share at this point. And let's see, now I want to share another one. And when I talked with Wayne about this, there were a couple of things I felt might, you can all see this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, someone said yes. So I went and visited several other memorials to kind of get a perspective, and I wanted to show you these. This is over in Normandy. This is outside of a little museum and park that the Canadians built where they stormed ashore at D-Day. And you can see they put these square kind of pillars up with the names of the servicemen who died there and or came and fought there. And here you can see a close-up of those names. It's a little plaque. It was a little bit discolored. The other thing was that some of the pillars had people who made donations. Another one, the one I really like, is in Mount Soledad in California. And they had put this memorial up. You can see kind of the shape. It was on a small hill. And what they did is they took and put here plaques of all different sizes for different people. And as you saw on that last one, interesting, most of you probably don't recognize the name Cliff Robertson, a movie actor who died many years ago. But actually they had one for Dwight Eisenhower and some other people like that. So you see all of these plaques where they put pictures and or information about those who served. Then down in Juab County in Nephi, this is a memorial that they put up there. And again, you see the names. If you look here on these that you see posted around here, you can see 5 of them. There's actually 6, but those have the names inscribed on them. This whole area here was the memorial. To the right, they planted a rose garden. This is a close-up of that. They had just a little monument in the middle, and then you see the names there. And then here on the walkway leading up to it, they put others who wanted to make a donation and have a specific individual remembered with more information. So, and there are a lot of different ways. Another one, it's not the same here, but something for the future. This was on a building, and you see these soldiers from the various different conflicts. Each of these are on a plain, flat wall. Those are paintings. I thought that was pretty unique. Nice way to put up a monument without the expense of a monument. Anyway, that's all for that specifically. Let's see, stop sharing. Okay, so what we have is the following. We still have $300,000 cash. And we want to break ground by, Wayne tells me we can do it by Memorial Day and build essentially a wall to honor those who gave their lives in the various conflicts. And so there's a few things that when you saw the wall was a continuous wall, and I raised the issue of that would be a nice alcove for the homeless to come and lay down their sleeping bag. I like more of an open concept, and so we're going to look at that, but we'll get on this right away. The idea is to literally start construction in May, and then we'll have a Veterans Day program there in the fall.
I was just going to ask, if we broke ground on Memorial Day, could we have the ribbon cutting on Veterans Day?
I believe so, but Wayne would have a better handle on that. He's the one that told me that we could break ground by Memorial Day. Wayne?
So the goal, as the mayor and I talked about it, sort of the challenge was, could we break ground and get this done in the year? You know, I would guess that with contingency trying to keep us out of snow, Veterans Day might be a good goal. I won't know until we actually see a construction schedule, but possibly is the answer.
Anyway, that's the goal. If not, we'll, of course, going to continue building it anyway. Then we will go back to the county and to our donors and say, okay, you know, we've got that, and we'll look to see what else that we build there. Part of this, Nicole, who's, you know, listening in here, been very, very quiet so far. Actually, we went over to the site there and walked around it, and she gave me some great ideas as far as how to accomplish this. And so it'll be scaled down just a little bit, and also building this monument portion of the name separately came out of that, and we'll at least get that up and out of the ground. So we'll have to see what the cost estimates are. Obviously that you saw that park layout, the 300,000 will not come anywhere near to doing all of that. The parking lots, the pond, you know, finishing the park all the way down to 3300 South. But it will, we believe, get us the monument there. So that's where we are.
So does this property come right up to the property we discussed earlier today, the Jones property, or is there a property in between, or?
Do you want me to call that back up?
If you want to, Mayor, that'd be fine. The Jones property is directly to the south there. The other property that we were, or you will be considering or looking at as a council here in the next little while, is kind of to the east and north a little bit, if I remember, probably more east. Well, actually, now that I look at that, maybe it's more north, not east, west. West and north, but mostly west.
Did that answer your question?
It was an answer. So the property, I guess, west of Cultural Center Drive, we don't own any property there. Is that right?
Yeah, we do own some property there as well. Now, are you talking, they're just north of 34th? That part, we own quite a bit of that. We may still be shy a little corner over there on the corner of 3400 South and Cultural Center Drive, but we own most of that. Or it's, easement for the power corridor. We own more ground over there to the west and north. And then we've got this other parcel that would be coming for you.
And the property south of this, of what's on the screen here, that's into what was the Ascent property, right? That whole amalgamated property that we worked on for a long time.
Right, where you see kind of the landscaping concept, where it's
Right.
unfilled in, obviously, is not ours.
But then that Jones property, that would be kind of on the southwest portion of that.
Yeah, I think it's actually directly south, but
Okay.
south, maybe a little west.
I mean, I like this. This is fine. I'd like to, I mean, we need to plan out this whole area there now that we're not doing the, whatever it used to be called, Jordan River Marketplace. And I mean, I know that we had Pioneer Crossing Park and all kinds of things. I'm not really sure what the overall view now is of that big piece of property and what we want it to be. Maybe that's the second discussion. What do we want West Valley City to be, starting with this little property? As far as the Veterans Memorial itself, yeah, I'm excited to go ahead with it.
Okay. The purpose here, of course, there's not been anything signed or done yet. That's still to come before the council, but wanted you to be aware that we are now entering into that phase to actually start the discussion, finalize the architectural drawings, and sign an agreement and get the thing moving forward. But that will come to you in the near future. Not tomorrow, but in the near future, in the next, I don't know, month or so. And so if there are objections or concerns with this phase, now would be a good time to mention them. Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay. Then that ends that portion. I now have this next item that my second one I said I wanted to bring forward. And I'm going to bring up the share screen concept again and show you just a couple of slides. And that'll start the discussion. And this is. Okay. I have a concept where I wanted to have a discussion, and I feel pretty compelled to do this, to say, what do we want our city to be 25 years from now? I'm not talking about infrastructure, zoning kind of things. We have a general plan. Wayne's done a great job with that. These are more things about how we would feel about our city. And so I actually identified 4 areas, and then I put other just to cover anything else. But if I looked 25 years down the road and I said, what would I want our city to be? How would I want to define it and say, what is it? And these are the 4 items I came up with. Number 1, of course, safer. It's what everyone says just about in our city. We want to feel safe. And that's taken on a new dimension with the things happening in Washington, D.C. And people are very concerned about safety, more so now. I also selected cleaner, meaning this is the ordinance enforcement, streets, all of that. to say we want a city that's beautiful, better maintained. This refers more to maybe a little bit our buildings, our homes, and even our infrastructure. And then more enjoyable covers everything with quality of life, parks, cultural center, fitness center, entertainment, recreation, trails, all of that, and then maybe other. Now, when I went through that, there were several ideas that popped in my mind. Now, I made a long list. I think I had about 37 items, but that's not for discussion today. What I did is I selected some key ones I felt strongly about, and I wanted to just have a discussion about those. Now, here's the concept that I would like for you to think about. If we're talking about what we want our city to be 25 years into the future, what are we doing right now to make the city become that? And what can we do to ensure that that's happening? Not to solve it tomorrow, but I'll use the example of Wayne and his economic development when he sat down in 2004 and they set up a program to bring more businesses, more retail, more restaurants, everything to West Valley City. And it's been a very successful program. They didn't do it overnight, but they did have a plan and a concept for what they wanted. So this next slide, I said, well, how could I make our city safer? And I said, first of all, I can't ask our current officers to work harder. They're already working as much as they can. They're already doing a good job. But when I say safer, I don't mean that we aren't keeping our city safe. We are following up on major crimes without question or problem. But how could we make our citizens feel safer? Well, that would be if we had more officers in our neighborhoods, if we had more follow-up on property crimes. And so I said, well, how could we do that? And I don't want to get there tomorrow. We can't raise our taxes that high. But I said, what would it take to do it? And I said, if we were to hire, let's say, 3 additional officers each year for, say, the next 10 years, or we could even do it indefinitely. I don't know what the right answer is. But if we had a plan in place, what you would do is you would typically do that. Now, if a recession comes along, you have to cut budgets. Maybe you don't do it that year, but then the next year you go back to your plan. And then also some auxiliary officers to take care of things like maybe parking or traffic around accidents, etc., and have them be part-time. The other ones, of course, you can see here, are meant to cause you to start thinking. The safety one is the one that's the most important in my viewpoint. But I also wondered about parks and their safety, maybe lighting and cameras. I know not having obstructed views, no hidden corners. And then the one I just recently brought up, an art object in each park. City buildings, maintaining those and putting an art object there. Cultural events, same concept. What can we do to improve? Not start new. We don't prevent that, but let's just take, and I picked 3 just as an example. I said, okay, West Fest, the Veterans Day program, and I gotta look my notes. What was the other one? Oh, the International Food Fair, because those were ones I was familiar with. I said, what we want to do is make those even better. Well, typically that makes money. or takes money to do. But I'm not suggesting that we start pumping, $100,000 amounts into them. What I'm saying is that for Westfest, each year we add an additional $5,000. So over a period of 5 years, you would add $25,000 to that program. And that would make it so that you could do more things. See, the concept is do a little bit every year. Same with what we did with the sidewalks. We added, 25,000, and then I think we added, what was it, 50 or 75,000? I can't remember. And you do the same thing with any of these things. And it's not limited to any single thing. But the question is, what do we want our city to be 25 years from now? What do we want to be known for? One of the things I think we want it to be known for, not just in fact, but in attitude and reputation. I want it to be safer. And then you can go through and say, what other things do we want it to be? Do we want to make it more art-centered? Do we want to make it more entertainment-centered? What things can we work on a little at a time to make the city better? So my first proposal is these that I've just mentioned here, to do a little something on these each year. And in park safety, one of the things, of course, and I had it in another place, the maintenance, is maybe say we add a half an FTE every year to parks maintenance. You don't solve it. You need more than that. I think I remember at one point, wasn't it about 20 FTEs? So you work on that over time by adding a little bit every year. With that introduction, then, I'd like your feedback and any suggestions as to where we could take this and what our city should be. Now, I'm going to stop the sharing there so that we can then visit, get that closed down. And any other issues that you think should be involved in this discussion. This is conceptual. It will not be solved in this meeting. It can be modified every year, but some general goals that we set up of what we want to have staff work on over time. What's important to us as elected officials representing the people of West Valley. What do you like, don't like about what I've said?
Well, the last thing that was on my list that I was waiting until after Wayne did his little presentation or was going to add to the end was level of service for every department, and kind of do an evaluation before next strategic plan so that we're looking at increasing our level of service in each department. And so I agree, this is a good way to do it one-on-one, but instead of hitting random things, hit exactly what's going to do our level of service upgrade or improve the level of service that we're giving to the citizens.
Okay. And see, you can do that, and that's very, very appropriate. But here's, you have to make the decision, and I haven't really, there's ramifications from this decision. And you say,
I know.
how can you improve service? It's not like you can say to people, we're going to work 6 10-hour days now from now on. That would improve service, but that's not what we can do.
Well, and that's what, so Wayne was going to bring forward maybe more Parks Department. He said future. So that would be, okay, our Parks Department, the level of service isn't quite where we want it. It's maybe at 60% and we want it at 90. So more full-time employees would help us achieve that. and come up with plans of how to raise our level of service. And there may be some departments that they're at the top of their service and they're doing such a good job. There's no improvement. We don't have to hire anybody else. But I think that's one way of evaluating the things on your list that we need to do.
Well, in each case, you're exactly right. There are two parts to that. Typically, any improvements will take some funding,
Yes.
either for employees or equipment or services or contracts. And so the question becomes, how much do you do over which period of time? That's why I used the example of, officers every year over time, and you get there. Same with level of service. Which department needs it? If we added one FTE and, $30,000 or $50,000 to a department, do we rotate it among departments? Do we have to do it for every department? Wayne can answer those questions, but we develop the concepts. And then Wayne will tell us what's needed, and second, how much it will cost. And then we'll have to decide, how do we meet those costs?
And Mayor, I think that we've left something off, which is quality of life, but the roads and sidewalks, and I mean, that's where we always seem to be falling short on money. It's not as exciting as saying we're hiring this many police officers or this much art or whatever else, but all of these things lead to the city being a nice place. Really, the roads are ignored unless they're bad, right?
Well, you're right. And Steve, actually, they're on my list. I didn't show you the list because it took like 8 slides with multiple items, a list on each one, because there are more issues.
Sure, and I'm not sure this is so much different than just our program mods memo, where each department goes through and puts down everything that they want. And, I think we end up with 9 parks employees on there and $1 billion for roads and whatever. And then we just try to do what we can or pick and choose and prioritize. The real question is cost and paying for all of it. And I don't see it as a new concept, just maybe rephrasing of what we've always been doing, what the departments themselves have been doing. That we could provide better service if we did this, but if we get the
on the service, yes. And on the infrastructure, yes. But on what you want the city to be like, its feeling, its, ambiance, if you will, that's different. I don't think you'll get program mods because they go for what is, for them to help them do their job. And that's the focus. I'm talking about, what kind of city do you want us to be? What type of feeling, if you describe West Valley City, what would you describe it as? And right now, typically the things people think of is the Maverick Center, maybe the Cultural Celebration Center, and our golf courses. Is that what we want to be known for? And I'm not opposed to that. I don't have the answer, but I say, if that's what we want to be, let's start doing something every year to improve those over time. An actual program. Apart from, Wayne will still do all the program mods. Wayne will still do all the infrastructure, the economic development. None of those change or stop. I'm saying, how do we start building who we want to be recognized as? That's kind of a awkward way of saying it, but that's kind of the feeling I have.
Mayor, I think we can pick 2 or 3 items on your list and maybe we can do that. Plus, but here, each district has kind of a different, maybe requirements, a different perspective. Like my district, we have a problem with the homeless people. And we want to have a place is safe, have a peace of mind for residential people, for the business people. They can do business in my district. If they don't have peace of mind and that kind of perspective, and it's very difficult for them to maintain their business or their say in our district, in our city. But
Okay,
go back to Steve, he said, well, where we can get the money to do that? See, that's a question too. So are we gonna lower spending or we can increase?
well, here's the concept. See, you can do that and you can do it in each district, and it can be something different in each district.
But the problem in my district is because the track is a connect from West Valley City to Salt Lake City, and it's very easy for them in and out, get, in or out the city. It causes a lot of problem in my district.
Okay, so how do we do that? What's your goal?
That's what I need your help.
You say safer, so other than hiring more officers, which I support, what else would you do?
But the question is we put more high officers, we put like let's say like 3 or 4 officers a year, and the thing is not work, it's waste of money.
I didn't quite follow that. I have to lean close to hear you.
But I said if
Yeah,
we get like 2 or 3 officers a year and we still have a problem, and that's we waste our money. And have to figure out how to restructure or how to figure out maybe adding something or maybe have some kind of different program, and we can solve that problem.
Okay.
We're not trying to solve all the problems at once.
You've confused me. You said that if we hire new officers, it would be a waste of money.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying if we hire more officers, 2 or 3 officers, but the thing is still there, the problem's still there, and that would waste our money.
Well, that's what you do when you hire and when you set this program, decide what you want them to do. For example, you've brought up homelessness. Could you also say one of the officers should be targeted towards traffic enforcement, people running red lights?
Okay.
Yes, you can do that. And in fact, I encourage that. What I'm saying is to achieve the goal, you say, we want our city safer from those who are causing problems with homelessness. Say, great, that can be part of the goal. And so the way we do that, I don't know of any other way. If you have something different other than, and we don't solve it overnight. We say, okay, there are 3 officers. Wayne, we have these 3 officers. Can you handle that in your organization? And maybe one time after 9 officers, maybe we have to hire a supervisor or open up another position like that. But you say, okay, we want these to be assigned to the following objectives, generally speaking. It may not be those officers. They may rotate the officers. Wayne will take care of all of that. We say, what do we want them to do to make our city safer? And we prioritize and say, our biggest concern is homelessness. Our second one is traffic enforcement. And I'm just using those as examples. The third one is community policing with someone out in the neighborhoods, however that works. And then once we have those goals, then we can sit down and say, okay, there's a cost. How much will it cost? And how will we achieve that? And if in fact we set those goals, I would support a way to accomplish that because we're going to have to bring in some revenue. I mean, your alternative is you could try and cut other things, but I don't think that's realistic. But I think this is a concept that if we develop it properly and we take it out to the residents of West Valley and say, here's our vision. and it's going to cost X. And so every year we're going to have to deal with that in order to accomplish this goal. They know exactly what we're proposing. They know exactly what it will do. My guess is, now I know for sure on the safety issue and the police officers, that the public will support that. Now, some of the others, the parks maintenance guy, boy, maybe not. I don't know. But if we have a concrete plan in place, my belief is our residents, the people of West Valley, will say, this is a great idea. We know it's going to cost, we know it'll hurt, but we support the concept. Now I'll be quiet for a while and listen.
I think the overall concept is great. It lays some things out on some long-range goals, which, you know, we've had tried to do throughout the time I've been on the council, but we haven't really sat down and named them out as long-range goals. We won't solve all the problems in the city all at once. I'd love to see more sidewalks go in. It'd make it a safer city, that'd make it a more walkable city, but that won't happen because of not only financing, but many other parts where maybe the landowner won't give us the right of way to throw a sidewalk in front of his house. He might not want it. There's all kinds of little nuances that come in, but if we've got an overall plan, we can look at that and work towards that. And we don't always work, well, we don't fight between the departments as to which one gets the minuscule budget increase this year. We can spread it out. We can put it on that overall plan.
I think Karen had a comment, but her mic was muted. I saw her lips moving, or else she was just humming.
No, I was talking to somebody else for a minute.
Huh.
I was going to be quiet for a minute, let other people speak.
Okay.
Aaron, there's nobody else to talk to but us.
Well, you know, sometimes people in my house have a question.
Well, first of all, is this a concept that the council is interested in doing? You know, I don't want to create more work for Wayne, other than maybe some minor work as far as cost estimating. But I feel like we need to have that vision, and it can be anything. Now, I've given you ideas, but what it will end up being is what the majority of the council says, this is where we want to go. And this is how we'll get there, by doing X, Y, and Z. And so we set the goals, then we turn to Wayne and we say, how much will it cost? And we'll decide to either meet that goal or a different one. And then we'll say to Wayne, we've given you the goal, we've given you the resources, get us there.
I would be
Wayne
interested
will
in,
be someone else in the future.
I would be interested in knowing how much this would cost over 10 years to do these things, but I'd be interested in knowing whether there's any kind of commitment to this paradigm, that this is the way that we're going to be viewing the city and going.
Well, that's an excellent question. Maybe for Wayne. Wayne, would you be opposed to this concept?
No, I mean, in terms of just gathering costs around like your specific proposals, Mayor, that's easy.
Well,
I think the harder question is really you guys deciding what does that vision that you've kind of put out there, what does that really mean? What do we really want? It's not so much we want to hire 3 officers a year. It's what does 3 officers a year get us, right? It's not so much we want a more beautiful, we want to hire a guy to make the city more clean. It's what does that mean, right? I mean, that's really what you're looking for.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you say, we want someone to clean graffiti. Well, you say, well, great. So the guy goes out and cleans graffiti. Well,
Right.
what does he do when he gets it all cleaned up?
Right.
And you can't hire more people to do graffiti because you don't need them. And so, Wayne, you have to play a critical role here to say, to get to this goal that the council has, here's what you need.
Right.
These are the kinds of things you need to do. And we may set a goal on homelessness. And I'm glad Tom used that, because that's a challenging one. And we say, well, what can we hire that will help that problem? Is it a police officer? Is it a caseworker? Is it a mental health professional? What is it that will help with that problem? And Wayne will have great input on that, I hope, in this whole environment. And we can't do everything. I mean, I've already got, up to close to 40 items that we could work on. Some small, some big. It's kind of like when I talk about the enjoyment and I pick those 3 items, maybe those are the wrong 3. Maybe it's something else. It's whatever the council decides. And each year they can review that and say, is our vision still appropriate? Is it still fixed on the right things? But you, as a council as a whole, when I say that, and when I say that, I include Wayne, have to come to some sort of an agreement as to what that is and how to get there. But if we don't do it, it won't start.
You have to set a goal to accomplish one.
Yeah. And
So-
you can change that goal over time.
It sounds like the goal is to raise taxes and then think about how we're going to spend them.
Nope. I disagree.
that's
You
what
can
I'm hearing.
interpret that way. Will taxes probably have to be raised to accomplish this? The answer is yes. If the council doesn't want to do it, that's fine too.
Well, what we end up
I-
with is
Huh?
coming up with proposals. Then when the rubber meets the road and we raise taxes, people who were all for the spending are against the raising the money.
Well, it will take a commitment, won't it?
Well, and I think it's going to be time consuming, which I think it's worth doing to figure out what that quality of life is. For the gentleman on 4100, his quality of life has gone down because speeding has gone up on 41. So do we hire 2 officers that only give out tickets on 41 to make his quality of life better? And then, we've got to figure out where that balance is of who we appease what year. But I would like the focus for the city to, yes, still stay the small town feel, the farming community in certain areas. I mean, I think we could come up with something that way as to what our objective is, and then have the directors help us figure out what they can do, what their program mods are that puts the resident as our number one customer to make happy. I mean, make West Valley the Nordstrom mentality. Anything we want that we can do and do it with a good smile on our face, that's what we do for our residents. Because our residents are our number one concern, or should be.
Well, I will make a statement. Well, no, I'll wait and just see how everyone feels about it. It's not set in stone.
I was going to follow up on Karen's statement too. we need to make the plan, but then we need to get that plan out to our residents so they see kind of what's coming up. And in that way, we can get some feedback that may say, I'm not going to fund it like that. I'm not going to have my taxes raised every year. And so we can back up a little bit, take a little off of it. So I think we need to do both ways. Get the plan developed and then get it out to the public so they can see the plan and give feedback.
There's really 3 phases to this, and all 3 of them have to happen. The first one is, for it to be successful, the first one is you have to have a plan. The second is you have to get the buy-in of the public. And third, you have to follow through on the plan. For example, if you build this plan and then you say you get the public's buy-in, and then you raise taxes for this purpose, and then you spend it on something else,
That's not gonna work.
doesn't work. And that commitment has to be there, not just from the council, but from the staff as well. We have to get their buy-in as well on this to say, yes, this will work. If you miss any of those steps, it doesn't work. And ideally, it should be on something like this of such significance that hopefully it would be unanimous. Every step of the way with the council. Is it something to pursue or not? That's the first question.
I think that's fine. I think we need to go with that direction. Just maybe more discussion or more feedback in the future, but I think it's just fine. At least we have something kind of guideline we want to do for the next 25 years, like you said. Something we know. We have to monitor that very closely. Every year we make the check box and see how we're going for each year. A personal goal for our city.
That's 2.
So, Mayor, I'm not sure what you're getting our feedback on. Which proposal are you asking us is
The
up
first
for-
thing is, the first question is, should we even try to put together a plan?
a 25-year plan? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And do you have a process in mind for doing this? What are you thinking?
My thinking is that if there's enough interest, then the next step would be to have each council member make proposals about what are the things that we should address as a city, not economic development, not the infrastructure, but these items that we want to improve or become known for. And take and develop the list, then that list would come to the council as a whole. And we say, here are the things that everyone's agreed upon, here are the things that are not, but we need to consider. And then if we approve that plan, then we would say to Wayne, what will it take to accomplish this? How many people and at what price? And when we see the price tag, then a second decision point comes. We may say, whoa, we're never going to be able to do that. And then maybe we modify the plan. We say we can't do all of it, but we can do service levels in the department and the police department. Those are the only 2 we can do. That's fine. Then we go and sell it to the public. And once we sell it to the public, then we make that hard decision to raise taxes, fund it, and move forward with the program.
So Mayor, would it be a good starting point to maybe have a survey taken as to what citizens want? Maybe the number one thing is going to be infrastructure and be better sidewalks and roads. And we like our parks just fine. And we feel like we have enough street lights. So let's just focus on this. Would it be advantageous to start with a survey of sorts?
The survey could be done, but I think it's a step or two down the road. First of all, I think we need to see if the council has a concept. Once we do the survey, could that modify the plan? Yes. And feedback from our citizens? Absolutely. But they have to have something to be surveyed on. And given the 7 of us, 8, including Wayne, we could identify what we think those are. And given your different backgrounds, your different neighborhoods, I think you're going to come up with a pretty good list. Won't be perfect. And you may actually do it for a year, and then you find there's something there that doesn't work, you modify it the next year.
Well, and I think that's what this meeting is supposed to be, is kind of the plan to improve the city or do different things. So I think we just need to incorporate it into this meeting, but I don't know if we're wasting our time to well, I guess we'd have to put the survey together because yeah, the person on 41 is going to be speed, Tom's area, loud noise, my area, people racing up 35th. I mean, there's something different in every area. And so I do think every council member will have a different priority, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I hope.
Yeah.
I think this will fail otherwise. In fact, maybe we could start by just saying, what are 5 areas that you would want us to work on? Each of you. And then we see how much similarity there is there. If they're all different, then we've got 35 items. Okay, that's not terrible. One of the challenges with a survey is it depends on when they take the survey, when they answer the question.
True.
Because, what I found a lot of times when I went door to door, I would say, what are your concerns? And they'd say, well, gee, I don't know. You caught me at a bad time. Or they would say 1 or 2 items. And then I always ask, because they were issues, I would ask about like public safety and roads and things like that and they'd say, oh, well, of course, those, yeah. They just hadn't thought of them. So the idea is if we pull these ideas together and then do some surveying, my guess is there's going to be similarities on some of them.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to end up with 35 to survey. And I think once we talk about them, we could narrow that list down to a more manageable one and then say, can we do that? But once we know what they are, once we know how much it costs, then we make that decision. We don't move forward unless we're supportive of the concept. We don't actually take a vote that we're going to raise taxes for it, but we say we're willing to. And we have everyone express that so we know where we stand. I wouldn't have brought it up if I weren't supportive, but the 3 elements have to be in place. The plan, the public buy-in, and the follow-through, that we actually do what we say. Otherwise, it would last 1 year and that's it.
Yeah, just to kind of express where I'm coming from. Some years ago, my insurance company sent out an email at Christmas time. Our company is giving $1 million to charity. Which of these 5 do you think we ought to give it to? And my answer was, I've got the wrong insurance company. I don't want to be paying you to make decisions about where my money goes and what charities I support. And my agent was really surprised with that until I explained that to him. And I think if we put lower taxes on the survey, we're going to get a good majority that choose lower taxes. My thought is, yes, if you're asking me to sign on to make the city a better place to work and play and do business and everything, I'm all for it. But I think these things need to come from, the departments. What does parks need? What do police need? What does fire need? What does roads need? And then we prioritize and spend money and raise taxes if we have to, which is exactly what we've been doing. So I'm just lost conceptually in how this is anything new or different or better than what's been business as usual. That's why I'm struggling with it.
Okay. Well, you're struggling with the idea. If that's similar feelings among the majority of you, that's okay. If it doesn't have legs, I won't force the council to do anything. I couldn't anyway, but I won't push hard. I will invite. If it doesn't go anywhere, that's fine.
I would like to see what the program mods are that Wayne has this year, that the departments have put forward, and kind of get an idea if what their focus is. And if we need to redirect them at all, or if they've already kind of got the focus of where they're going.
But here, I think maybe I heard, but Steve just share that information with us. I think there's Mayor, maybe your information is similar to what we do every year. Is there any way you can articulate some particular areas you want to do, and then maybe we can get more people get involved?
Well, clearly, and I've stated that, is the police department, public safety.
So right now you want to do with public safety first. Is that right?
Yes, I want to add more officers because I can't see any other way of doing it.
Right. And then now we have an open discussion, like let's discuss about it and what do you want to do?
So more officers to lessen the response time, to give more tickets. What would be the purpose if we're just going to start on one?
Well, he asked me a specific question.
Yeah.
I'm not quite, what I'm concerned is that we don't make this a mayor's list and the council studies it and says yes or no. For this to work, it has to be input from everyone. He asked me what mine was, but I want to add, yours maybe is the service quality in the departments. We need to get everyone's and compare those because we can't do them all. This has to be driven by the council as a whole or not.
So
Because I
to
can
me,
go make a list. I can do my own list and come back with amounts and what I think the city ought to do. I could just get that done. But
Which is pretty much
not
what we do.
Huh?
Sounds like strategic planning meeting, right? We come up with a list of what we think ought to be added or improved. And, just on the police, if we have 20 officers on duty instead of 12, they all still show up at the same call, whatever seems sexiest at the time.
No, clearly, there are two things. And the reason I use that one is we don't do a lot of follow-up on property crimes. Now, you can say we don't need to, but our citizens think they would like for us to do more follow-up. Now, would they like it enough to be willing to support a tax increase to pay for it? It's a different question. But I think, I think that we could sell that.
But it presupposes the more police means we do a better follow-up on property crimes. And I'm saying I'm not sure that's what it means. And also, I mean, it kind of started as people will see more police and feel safer. Well, those aren't the property crime detectives following up on things. That's patrol. And patrol just goes to whatever the hot spot is, and they all seem to show up.
Well, Steve, I'm just thoroughly pleased that you're on the council because you can take each of these and ensure that we've got them focused right. So your help will be critical in coming up with a proposal if we decide to move forward.
I mean, if we're making lists, I'll certainly participate, but I'm just still lost on the concept.
Okay, that's fine. And that's what I need to know because you're clearly, it probably would take a lot more effort and discussion before you would feel comfortable moving forward with the issue. I think I captured that from what you said.
I
You're
think
just
that's
not comfortable yet.
a fair summary.
Okay. Don sees some value, but he would like to see more.
My one concern about doing a survey is that we've done those in the past and they didn't turn out that well because of the surveyor that we had.
Yep.
Housed out of country and bad accent and things like that, that the people answering the survey couldn't understand the surveyor. And so I worry about how we find out information from the public as to whether or not they would like us to do something like this, because I don't want to go to them last. I want to go to them first, because if
No,
it's things
you-
they want to see done,
What
they'll be
about
more
town hall
supportive.
meetings?
Pardon me?
Town hall meetings, or I don't know what you call them, but having a series of those, even in neighborhoods, whatever it would take.
Yeah, and
Or,
not doing it with suggestions, you know. You mentioned many times when you were knocking doors, and if they didn't have any ideas, you popped a few out and yeah. We're really supportive of having more of that or that. That's because we suggested to them. I don't want us to go out and suggest things to them. I want it to come from them.
I'm okay with that.
Can I ask, pardon me, I'm interested to know if previous iterations of the city council and or staff have engaged in this kind of exercise before, trying to establish a 25-year plan. And I mean, is this a new idea? Is this something that is just coming back after having been done before? I guess that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Yes, that's a question for Wayne because I can't answer it.
So the short answer would be yes. This would be coming full circle around efforts like this that we've pursued in the past.
What was their plan at that point?
Well,
We
it
did
was
a
more of
copy.
the comparative process to what we do now, as opposed to the time frame. We would do guiding principle, objective goal, and then specific action planning towards, okay, we want this specific thing to happen, code enforcement improvement or whatever. And we would plan for that. Here's our goal. We want to see that happen in 1 year or 5 years. That would be the main difference between that and what you're talking about, Mayor, is the length of time. But to Jake's question, which is a very good one, yeah, that was kind of more of a formal strategic planning process.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I've asked, only because, you know, and I think we've all been in different organizations or corporate settings where we're asked to, you know, look at forecast, vision, mission, and those kinds of things. And you always bring somebody in to facilitate this meeting, and you put the sticky notes on the walls and all that kind of stuff. And I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out with what the mayor's proposed. I'm not opposed to the concept, but how do we actually enact that? Because we're talking about a 25-year vision, which is very broad and general and has a lot of future or forecasting involved, but then also very specific on the ground current subjects like how many officers to hire and things like that. So I'm just trying to get my head around what's being proposed.
Yeah, my goal in this was not to go out and do it with outside people, rather, but to start it with the council and have the council drive that and then take it to our residents. That's the concept. And I have to make sure that we get in, Lars, that if we don't cover the item that you wanted to cover, that we make sure we cover that. Okay.
Well, and the survey of the residents could be simply on our website. They go in, they fill it out. We could advertise it on Facebook. We don't have to do a big phone calls and a lot of time and effort. Just take and accumulate the results at the end, which we didn't have Facebook or the website when we did our past surveys. So I think they could be done more effectively. But I really just think this is what this meeting is supposed to be anyway. So maybe we need to get more focused on back what we want it. I don't know if it's what we want in 25 years. I mean, I think everybody wants safe community, clean community, and quality of life. I think those are pretty easy. It's just how to get there.
Well, I
And
used
how
to say
to
quality of
define each of
life,
those.
but Nancy Day converted me to more enjoyable.
Hey, I can make mine happy no matter what's around me. So it's just a choice.
I think
Well,
all of us approach this meeting with a long-term view, and we focus on the immediate things, but we also focus on the things that we want in the city for the long term. And 25 years is pretty short term for how long the city goes, and I hope that we're all considering that long term. I think we are.
Any other comments? Okay. Had enough discussion on that. Those are my two items. Anyone have anything else? Is there anything else we need to cover?
Mayor, I did want to just ask, so coming out of that conversation, is there anything specifically we ought to take away as staff as assignments there, like the survey or not, or anything?
There
Just
was,
as something?
no, we're not at that stage yet.
Okay, all right.
If I had to assess this, I would say right now it's unlikely. There are a lot of questions. If the concept itself, there would have to be at least 4, but I would prefer even the vast majority, at least move forward. But I've gotten comments that most feel that we're doing enough right now and we're addressing those issues. And so anything I do, I can do anything I want on my own, but it would be a totally different thing in format. So I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any assignment right now to staff. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think if anything, we just give ourselves an assignment to come up with 5 items and see if everybody's kind of in the same direction. or if we're all over the place and it just won't even be anything we could accomplish. And then maybe revisit it in a month and then decide if we want to have if we get done today, we don't use our Saturday, maybe use a Saturday in the future to actually nail them down and come up with a plan that then can be used next year in strategic plan that kind of puts it, more in perspective.
Okay. Well, next year, you can decide if you want to do that.
Well, I think you need to have it in place before next strategic plan if you want to use it as a strategic plan tool. And I think if you could have emailed us this idea a couple months ago and let everybody think on it, I think would be in a better place today to have an informed decision for you.
Okay.
That's why I think if we want to do this next year, we need to work on it this year to put it into place.
Very good. Anything else? Well, it's not even quite, just barely 4. And unless someone has something else they want to do during the strategic plan meeting,
I thought Wayne had a proposal for parks. Was he going to do that today?
No, it's just in program mods, ma'am. Thanks.
So do you have the program mods for next year, for this next budget?
Almost. They're not completely finished, but we're getting close to that point in the budget process where we do have them.
So what would be the earliest you could share those with us before we actually start working on the budget? Or could you give us some of them today?
Yeah, I think I could probably have that within 2 weeks.
Okay.
So that's pretty early.
Yeah. Okay.
and then one last double check with Lars. You had an item you hoped we would cover in this. Did we?
We covered it. Thanks.
Okay.
So what was it?
Just an idea about the, thinking of the future and what we want it to be. So.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think Wayne, at our last closed session, mentioned something about having a staffing plan or this ready to present to us sometime soon. Just wondering how he's coming on that.
Yeah, and we're still in an open meeting, so.
So just in response to that, organizationally, I'm ready to go and could actually talk about what that organization would look like. Unfortunately, to get full understanding of the implications of that, I got to talk about individual names and people, and I'm not sure I really would want to do that in this venue.
So can we go to a closed meeting? Can somebody set us up a closed meeting Zoom real quick?
We could, but we didn't post it. We didn't plan on that.
We could do
Technically,
it
yes. Technologically, we can do that, but posting wise, we cannot.
Okay.
Tuesday night. would be-
Tuesday
Yeah,
night?
Tuesday we could.
Okay. Let's do that then.
That would be fine. And I've been following participants, and so far I've seen them all on one screen, so it's only us.
Well,
I know, but you don't want a public record for the future, do you? In
Well, you
case
also
things
have- we
don't
don't-
follow through?
Right. And we
Right.
actually know if anybody's following on YouTube Live? Do we have
I
that?
I was looking on YouTube and there were 8 people watching at one point
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
on YouTube. So
8 people? That's fantastic. That's great.
Maybe we should have them all virtual so that people show up.
Yeah, let's invite
800% increase.
Yes.
cookies and punch.
Oh, I just got a text from Jim. He mentioned about the fireworks for the kids. Is that should I bring it up or should not?
The what?
Fireworks and the kids, children not play with us.
Oh,
With that. So is there a way we can prevent that or something we can do about it?
I think that's police. So do we need to ask legislature to put a law in place that it's against the law to put off fireworks if you're under 18? Is that kind of what, because I think I understood before that there's just no law in place to control that, or is there?
I don't know that. I'd have to go back and research that for you.
Yeah, my
And
memory's
even-
not that great, but I thought that's what our problem was, is police said I can't give them a ticket because there's not a law. So I don't know if we need to turn it over to the county or the state and ask them to address that. If we could even do it on our local level.
Even if there was a law, I don't think we've got enough officers in the state to enforce it in one city. Because once you get those going off, everybody's doing them and there aren't enough officers to get to everybody.
Well, you'd have 108 if you just put everybody on duty 1 minute. But yeah, I can see it being overwhelming and cumbersome, but if there's a law in place to even give them a ticket, that would probably help a little bit. Because I can
believe
tell you, I know someone that was doing things under 18 and they were good with it. And then when asked what you're going to do tonight, and they say, and you remind them they're now 18 and they don't call your parents and you go straight to jail, their activity changed quickly. So if a kid knew the consequence was jail for putting off fireworks underage, there might be a different look at it.
I believe under current law, the last time I checked, all fireworks regulations were state. They allowed municipalities to direct where they could be set off. I think that was about the only thing they left for the cities to be able to control. Because they
So-
set the time, the type, everything else. So I think you would have to go to the state for something like that.
Here, I asked you guys, here maybe you can help me out with this. Go back to the band, live band playing. If they intentionally have done something against regulation or rule, can we give them a stiff fine for that? Is that be okay, Wayne? We have to pass ordinance or resolution to do that, or what are we gonna do?
We can't, we can give a range within the ordinance of what a particular type of misdemeanor or infraction costs, but it's obviously up to the judge to decide what they ultimately fine them. And we have been doing that in terms of the officers were ordered by the chief to give tickets. That's as far as we can go from the enforcement side until it reaches the judge.
And Wayne, could we possibly do something like they did out of the skate park the other day and film or record the infraction and have the police use that? Because I know that's how they caught the guy out of the skate park.
I can go back and raise that question amongst or together with police and legal to see how we would do that, just work process wise, right? If it can be done legally and we can get the various components of the legal system to cooperate on that, yeah.
Yeah, but from the report I read, that's how they caught the skater. Was they had taken video of it and they used that video to find him in the park.
So Don, are you saying to have a neighbor record the loud music with a timestamp and then police can get to it at their convenience and give the ticket out?
I'm saying, could that be a possibility?
Okay,
Uh,
that's what I thought I
you
understood.
know, rather than, it's like the kids racing ATVs up and down the street. By the time the officer gets there, there's not a whole lot of probability that they're going to still be racing.
Right. So
So
that's,
if a reporter or reporting person or a neighbor were taking video of it or recording of it with timestamp and that, then could that be evidence that could be used in those cases?
yeah, and I think that would be between legal and police if that's legal or not.
Well, Wayne can start the conversation between them.
Yep.
Yep.
I could see Nicole's legal brain moving around as I talked about it too.
I can't see Nicole.
Anything else? Hearing no further comments, then motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn without objection. We will stand adjourned. Hearing no objections, the vote is unanimous. Thank you all for your time and your effort on this, and you all have a safe and a healthy evening.
So Mayor, do we need to make a statement for the public that we will not convene for a meeting tomorrow because of all of our business was taken care of today?
Uh,
Because it's posted, we may have a meeting.
Yeah, do we need to send out a cancellation notice?
I'll ask Nicole, and if you want to make a statement right now, that probably would suffice to cover your bases if there's any question.
Yes, we will not meet again until Tuesday for our regularly scheduled meetings. There will be no city council meeting for strategic planning or any other purpose tomorrow.
There we go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
thank
Well
all.
done.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, thank you. Well done.
Yeah.
Have a great
I have to
weekend.
get real close to Tom and Don, so, because I can't hear them very well.